What happens when a relationship shifts from a romantic connection into a dangerous obsession? When 22-year-old nursing student Hayley Anderson crossed paths with Orlando Tercero, she could have never anticipated the possessiveness that would spiral out of control into a devastating tragedy. But who exactly is Orlando Tercero? And what drove him to commit such horrific crimes against someone he once cared for? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be in the world right now. Hello, it's your boy Lloyd, and you're watching When Evil Follows. Today's case takes us to America. When you think of New York, you might envision the bustling busy streets of Manhattan, but today we're travelling over 170 miles northwest to the quarter city of Binghamton. Known for its charming Victorian architecture and amazing landscapes, Binghamton stands with a population of around 50,000 people. The city once thrived as a manufacturing centre for business growth and development, but now leans heavily towards healthcare and education. The Binghamton University is home to almost 17,000 students at its core, and this university is a sure winner for anyone wanting to gain further education in social and medical care. Binghamton is also home to the longest running zoo in the New York state. It's also home to Ross Park and the Phelps Mansion Museum. And now, with a little bit of knowledge of the area, you may be wondering who is Hayley Anderson and what led to her untimely death. Hayley Anderson was a vibrant young woman from Westbury, New York. She was born on the 9th of May in the year of 1995 to loving parents Karen and Gordon Anderson. Hayley was loved by both of her parents and her older sister, Madeline Anderson. She was known for a sense of humour and her cheerful personality. Hayley was hardworking, she loved movies and music, and she was a compassionate person to all that knew her. She brought joy and warmth to her family and friends, and always made a lasting impression on everyone she met. In 2013, Hayley embarked on her academic journey at the Binghamton University, pursuing a challenging 5-year degree. Her dedication and passion for nursing was evident, as she balanced her studies with a part-time job whilst working at Jasmine's, an off-campus coffee shop where she worked for over 3 years. Her commitment to her education and work was unwavering, reflecting her determination to succeed in her chosen field of profession. Now, by March in 2018, Hayley was in the final year of her semester and eagerly anticipated her graduation in May, and she had already secured a job with Northwell Health, where she was set to work in an accident and emergency room at one of the Long Island hospitals within the area. This opportunity was a talisman to her hard work and dedication, a promising bright future ahead of her nursing career. Now, Hayley's prospects really were promising, and she was super excited about the new chapter in her life that awaited her. However, during her final years at Binghamton University, Hayley Anderson met a fellow nursing student named Orlando Tercero, and though Hayley enjoyed Orlando's company, she made it very clear that she wasn't looking for a serious committed relationship. And Orlando, on the other hand, he had completely different intentions. His feelings for Hayley quickly grew possessive and obsessive, leading him to overstep Hayley's boundaries. He would often show up uninvited at her house and sitting on her porch, smoking cigarettes, a behaviour that made Hayley feel uncomfortable and somewhat concerned. Orlando was a 22-year-old nursing student similar to Hayley, and he had a complex background. He held a Jew, Nicaraguan, and American citizenship, and his full name was Orlando Enrique Tercero Morendo. And despite his academic achievements and aspirations in the field of nursing, Orlando's fixation on Hayley started to reveal a much darker and sinister side to his personality. His obsessive behaviour became increasingly evident to Hayley and to those around her, raising those red flags about his intentions and his emotional stability. And yeah, it's fair to say as time went on, Orlando's obsession with Hayley surely intensified. He struggled to accept the fact that Hayley didn't share his desires for a serious relationship with him. His uninvited visits and his constant pressure and presence became a source of stress and anxiety for Hayley, and what's more is her friends and family noticed the strain it was placing upon her. But despite their concerns, Hayley continued to focus on her studies and up-and-coming graduation. However, the situation did reach a critical point as Orlando's behaviour grew all the more erratic. His inability to cope with Hayley's rejection led to an escalation in his behaviour and actions, ultimately leading to a tragic event that would forever haunt and alter the lives of those involved. Hayley's once bright future was now being overshadowed by the darkness of Orlando's obsession. An obsession that will leave Hayley and her loved ones grappling with the devastating consequences of his possessive and dangerous fixation. Guys, just a quick reminder, if you enjoy content like this, then please subscribe to the channel for weekly true crime cases just like this. I cannot continue to make these videos without you guys subscribing, so please subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out and helps the channel grow. Thank you. Now, despite all the tensions from back in the day, Hayley enjoyed Orlando's one-to-one company for a short period of time, but as I mentioned, Hayley didn't want a committed relationship with him. However, on the 15th of September in the year of 2017, Hayley attended a party at Orlando's residence, where the simmering tensions would eventually reach boiling point. Orlando confronted Hayley about her new relationship she was having with their mutual friend named Kevin, and it was in the heated exchange of words Orlando shouted at Hayley in front of all who attended the party, his anger clearly visible for all to see. Eventually he attempted to smooth things over by offering her alcohol, but the gesture did little to ease the growing animosity between them both. The following day, on the 16th of September, Hayley discovered that her car tyres had been slashed, causing well over $600 in damage. And yeah, this malicious act left her shaken and deeply suspicious. She strongly suspected Orlando was responsible, as he knew that she had spent the night with Kevin. Now, this incident marks a turning point in exposing the lengths Orlando was willing to go to express his frustration and jealousy. And despite having no concrete evidence that pointed towards Orlando, Hayley decided not to involve the police, as she was concerned about the potential impact it could pose on her university career. Hayley's decision to avoid legal action was influenced by a compassionate nature and desire to prevent further conflict. She hoped that by not escalating the situation, Orlando would take the hint and just back off. However, this choice left her feeling vulnerable and quite unsettled, as she sensed the threat of Orlando lingering in the background of her everyday thoughts. And at the same time, her friends and family were deeply worried about her safety and urged her to reconsider her decision. But as the months passed, Hayley refused and focused more on her studies and up-and-coming graduation, whilst at the same time trying to put the incident behind her. On the night of March the 7th in 2018, Hayley was enjoying an evening with friends. She was playing board games, having fun, drinking wine, but she was completely unaware that her life was about to take a tragic turn. At around 3 AM, Hayley was now completely intoxicated and chose to visit Orlando at his off-campus apartment. Now, I can't really specify for sure what really happened over the next 6 hours or so, but it was during that time frame Hayley was attacked by Orlando and violently strangled to death. And let's be honest here, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that Hayley was murdered out of pure jealousy, because if he couldn't keep her, then no other man could. Around 7 hours or so later, at 10:48 AM, a neighbour's camera recorded Orlando leaving his apartment alone, and when he returned just moments later, he was holding melatonin and Zil. Both of these medications are used to help people with sleeping disorders. Well, I hate to say it, but spoiler alert, the reason he purchased these medications was not for the right intentions. 7 hours on, that same day, he was captured again on camera, leaving his apartment, heading to his basement where he found 8 metal ceiling hooks, before returning back to his apartment. He then went back upstairs and wrote a note saying, "I never imagined doing this. I'm sorry, Father. I'll see you soon." Now, just to put things into context, his father passed away 7 years prior, so this note strongly indicated that he meant that he would see him soon, either in heaven or hell shortly. It's then believed that he screwed these hooks into his bedroom wooden door frame and then tried to end his own life by using his own tie. Fortunately or unfortunately, he fell and cracked his head open, and even though he was bleeding extensively, he did survive the fall, and after failing to end his own life, he then decided to flee and go on the run. And so he packed some of his clothes into a bag and put a bandage on around his head, and then made his way to the JFK International Airport. And once he arrived, he boarded a plane to Nicaragua with the full intentions of evading the police forever. Now it was around the same moment in time Haley's friends were becoming highly concerned, as no one had seen or heard anything from Haley in quite some time now, and so her friends used the Find My Friend app to track her down. They followed the signal leading them to Orlando's off-campus apartment. Fearing the worst, after knocking and even banging on the door, they decided to break in and gain entry through one of the downstairs lower windows. And once inside the property, it was then they discovered Haley's pale, lifeless body. Shocked and clearly upset, they immediately rang the authorities. And while the group of friends were in shock and waiting for the police to arrive, they all were wondering where was Orlando at this point in time. But little did they know that he was already miles away. The police arrived at the crime scene and sectioned off the surrounding areas to the apartment. Strange though, because this wasn't the first time the police were called out to the property that day, because just after murdering Haley, Orlando reached out to his sister by text message, saying that he was responsible for committing something so dreadful that he was unable to live with the shame. And so concerned for her brother, she contacted the police and asked them to make a welfare check at his apartment. However, once they arrived, only to receive no response, the police had no other choice but to simply walk away. And now, just hours later, on the 9th of March, police officers would return to the address, this time equipped with the knowledge knowing that there's a dead body inside the property. And once the police were inside the apartment and logged all the clues together, they placed Orlando as the main suspect in this highly suspicious investigation. However, what the police didn't know was that he was already long gone, miles away in a completely different country.
Very upsetting.
John Duran of Westbury says the suspicious death of his neighbor Haley Anderson robbed this world of a compassionate, charismatic 22-year-old who was just getting her start as a healthcare professional. Friday, she was found dead in this home near Binghamton University where she was enrolled in the nursing program. That city's police detectives are not saying anything about what killed the college student, but classified it a homicide. Detectives are looking to talk to a man, also a nursing student, who they say Anderson was romantic with. They say he left the country before the body was discovered.
It's so terrible. And my heart bleeds for the family.
Anderson's mother and younger sister live in this Westbury house, which became crowded with supportive neighbors, friends, and relatives. We were told family members are too distraught to talk about this loss and the mysteries surrounding it.
It's hard to understand, you know?
She was literally like the greatest person ever. She never didn't have a smile on her face.
This year, she did an internship at a hospital here on Long Island, and she told me about all the operations that she witnessed. Tragic loss.
For many here, not knowing the how or the why of this homicide case haunts them. They want anyone responsible for this to be identified and brought to justice. In Westbury, Nassau County, Dave Carlin, TV 1055.
The following day, on Saturday the 10th of March, an autopsy was conducted at the Lowndes Hospital in Binghamton. The results confirmed what everyone feared. Haley's death was officially declared a homicide. The autopsy detailed the cause of death as asphyxiation due to severe bruising around the neck and arms. And it was at that point the police publicly declared her death as murder, marking a significant turning point in this policing investigation. And soon after, the search for Orlando would intensify, as he was now the prime suspect. Haley's tragic death, along with the police investigation, captured the attention of the entire country and beyond. Her life was filled with hope and promise, and then brutally cut short by violence, underscored by the lethal consequences of an unchecked, jealous and dangerous obsession. And yeah, Haley's family and friends, they were left completely heartbroken and devastated, whilst grappling with a senseless death. The following day, on Sunday the 11th of March, the police department officially named Orlando Tercero as the main suspect in Haley Anderson's murder. And so with no time to waste, the authorities launched a global manhunt for Orlando, determined to bring him to justice. The police confirmed using CCTV evidence that he'd fled the country to Nicaragua, a cunning move that would complicate the entire policing investigation, because if any person suspected of murder is detained in the same country where the crime has happened, then quite frankly, he can be tried according to the country's judicial system. If not, then most countries have an extradition agreement in place in the event that the suspect flees. However, this is solely dependent on the relationship between both countries, and in Nicaragua's case, there's no treaty in place with the United States. So unfortunately, or dare I say technically, Orlando is a free man, because he was a dual citizen of both countries with no need for extradition. In other words, Nicaragua don't have to extradite him back to the United States. And yeah, this information was a tragic situation for Haley's friends and family back home, and many police officers feared the worst as they were more or less left powerless in this intense investigation. In fact, all the police could do is hope that Nicaragua's government would make the right decision, and in the meantime all Haley's family could do for now was wait for the oncoming thunderstorm of trouble, anxiety, fear and anticipation. During this time, Orlando had made it safely to his mother's family home, where he went into hiding. However, what wasn't clear was just how much the mother knew of her son's evil actions back in Binghamton. But what was clear, however, was he was definitely being looked after by his mother over the past several days, despite a huge international ongoing manhunt made public for his arrest. However, the wheels of karma would soon slowly begin to turn, and his newfound sense of freedom would soon be cut short, because just a couple of days later the wound on his head slowly started to become infected, and so a trip to the hospital in the city of Leon was needed, and it was there where Orlando was recognised and finally arrested. And even though he had the cold cuffs on around his wrist, Orlando still had one last trick up his sleeve. Or so he thought. Yeah, he told the police that he was mentally ill and suffering with suicidal intrusion thoughts, knowing full well this statement would see him escape jail temporarily. And so over the next week or so, Orlando spent time in the psychiatric hospital, and it was there, yeah, he tried to end his own life again. The United States would eventually respond with a strong plea deal to extradite Orlando back to the United States to be charged accordingly. And even though the request was refused, the Nicaraguan authorities agreed to try Orlando in their own courts, ensuring everyone involved that he would definitely face the full legal consequences for his wicked and evil actions under the Nicaraguan judicial system. This decision, however, brought a bag of mixed emotions for all involved, from relief to anger and frustration for those seeking justice for Haley. Orlando was eventually charged with femicide of which isn't recognised in the United Kingdom or the United States of America. The definition of femicide is considered to involve the intentional killing of a female by a male aggressor, and without doubt the evil motive behind femicide can vary quite drastically, and in Orlando's case the motive was concluded to be rage and sheer jealousy, and those close to Haley with bottled emotions exploded during the trial, as friends and family took to the stand in court and confirmed that Orlando was nothing more than controlling, abusive and possessive with Haley. They also explained that he would never leave her alone, and that he would shout and scream at her in public, and he even slashed her car tyres. The criminal psychologist claimed that he had likely murdered Haley out of rage and pure jealousy after realising she didn't want to be exclusive to him. And while all this was going on, Orlando just sat there on his chair with a blank expression on his face, just looking at the wall, acting like he wasn't even aware of his surroundings or what was even going on around him. In fact, he had the nerve to blame the killing on short-term insanity because of the amount of alcohol he consumed that evening. Yes, okay Orlando, that sounds like a truthful alibi. Insanity by alcohol happens all the time. Perfectly acceptable. Perfectly. You're free to pop off. Off you go. Off you go. What a cock. Anyways, just after 1 hour and 45 minutes of deliberation, the prowling judge in command of the trial came back with a verdict. And guess what? Yep, she found Orlando guilty of femicide, resulting in immediate incarceration for 30 years, behind bars, of which, by the way, is the maximum sentence possible for femicide in Nicaragua. And get this, Orlando wasn't happy with the charges given, and within less than a year he requested another psychological court evaluation, to which the courts would immediately reject. And so, Orlando continues to face 3 decades behind bars, to this very day. And just to add a little bit more mud to the shovel, the US officially released by the courts an extradition warrant for his arrest. When he finally gets out of jail, he will then have to face sentencing in the US for a further 30 years behind bars in an American prison. I suppose the funny side to this is that he tried to run away from the crime to avoid the time, only to actually receive a much longer sentence than if he was to actually stay within America. And now he's potentially going to serve 60 years behind bars with horny Big Bubba Ray. Ooh. Oh. And as for Hailey's family and friends, who will always miss and remember her, perhaps now they can finally grieve in peace, knowing that her killer is exactly where he needs to be. Personally speaking, I think Hailey's parents should be very proud of the woman she became. Her father made a beautiful gesture and received a diploma in nursing upon her late graduation. Hailey will always be remembered as a beautiful and intelligent, kind woman who brought peace, warmth and charm to those who she loved. So what's your thoughts on this case? Do you believe Hailey's friends did the right thing by breaking an entry into Orlando's apartment? And what's your thoughts on Orlando's double sentencing? Fair or unfair? Whatever you're thinking, I'd love for you to share in the comment section below. And don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more weekly true crime cases just like this one. And with all that being said and done, please do look after yourself and stay safe. And I'll see you again real soon, the next time, when evil follows. Bye.